Ontario's Education Ministry is cracking down on financially rogue school boards, but is one board dodging scrutiny while strong-arming families with mandatory student fees that go against ministry guidelines, excluding kids from essential activities, and potentially masking a top-heavy administration's ballooning salaries? Let's dig in. Last week, the Ontario Ministry of Education made headlines for cracking down on school boards for financial mismanagement, appointing supervisors in an attempt to restore financial stability. Especially with funding up and student performance down, it's clear that something is awry in Ontario's publicly funded education sector. But is one board in particular flying under the radar while strong-arming families with added fees? The Peterborough, Victoria, Northumberland, Clarington Catholic District School Board, I know it's a mouthful, or PVNCCDSB, is being put under fire for charging families mandatory student activity fees, which appears to be in contravention of ministry guidelines. One parent in MPP David Piccini's riding has sounded the alarm about this, with the fees doubling from $25 to $50 this year. They're supposed to be for things like Chromebooks, extracurriculars, and guest speakers, but this catch-all fee could also include the controversial Get Real movement, which parents call ideological overreach and activist-driven. Most concerningly, though, in exclusive communication shared with me by this parent, is that they say if you don't pay, your kid could be locked out of sports, computer access, and even prom. It gets even spicier, though. The Ontario Ministry of Education's own guidelines say that schools cannot charge fees for required learning and activities that students must do. These activities, like sports, tech access, and school events, are part of a student's education. They're not optional add-ons. So why is PVNCC DSB charging for them and excluding kids who don't pay? The parent who reached out to Piccini's office claimed that these fees are a sneaky way to offset the board's financial mismanagement, putting the burden on families who are already stretched thin and taxed nearly to death. This parent had already contacted their trustee, who's supposed to be their elected voice at the board level, but they disregarded the concern, and Piccini's office gave a lame excuse, ultimately concluding that, quote, unfortunately, there is very little we can do because of the legal independence of school boards, end quote. But with Ontario's recent takeover of 4 major school boards from Toronto, Toronto Catholic, Ottawa Carleton, and Dufferin Peel for running deficits and depleting reserves, you'd think that the PVNCC-DSB would be on notice. While Piccini's office says that boards have legal independence, there's very clearly new legislation giving the Ministry of Education broader powers to investigate and take over boards for financial mismanagement or public interest issues. So I wanted to inquire with the ministry and Piccini directly to see if PVNCC-DSB would be under investigation and if more boards will face audits as more information comes out about the scope and breadth of financial mismanagement. But mostly, I wanted to know how Piccini's claim of limited authority squares with the province's new oversight muscle. Surprise, surprise, no one responded to my media request. No accountability, no transparency. So let's take a minute to look at some additional facts that surely raise some more red flags. PVNCC-DSB has a total operating and capital budget of over $200 million. They say that they have 4,875 secondary students, and if every student is charged that $50 additional fee, that's nearly $244,000, $250,000 every single year. According to the Ontario Sunshine list, the number of public sector employees making over $100,000 a year at this board skyrocketed in 2020. The board has an average salary of $130,000 per year, and they paid out over $106 million in total salaries. That's roughly half of their operating budget. And look at this, that marks a 66.2% increase from last year in terms of these salary payouts. So let's take a peek at the 2024 highest earners from this board and how much their salaries alone eat into this budget. First up is Stephen O'Sullivan, the Director of Education. He makes a cushy $266,885 a year plus benefits, and his salary actually jumped a whopping 48% last year, For what, I wonder? Superintendent of Human Resources Derek Collar makes just over $210,000 a year plus benefits, and he received a 25% raise last year. Up next is Sean Hutchart, Superintendent Business and Finance. He made almost $205,000 last year plus benefits, and he received a 40% raise, then a 12% raise in the last 2 years. Psychologist and Student Services Manager Cynthia Chan Reynolds makes nearly $203,000 again plus benefits, with a 45% raise from the year prior. Are we noticing a pattern here? Next in line are 4 different superintendents: Julie Selby, Jonathan Delaney, Jeannie Armstrong, Sheila Piggott, who each make anywhere from $193,000 to $199,000 every year plus benefits. Terry Smith, the Chief Financial Officer, makes nearly $188,000 a year, and Trevor Poachman, a secondary principal, makes nearly $167,000 a year. Not including benefits, this totals over $2 million in salaries for 10 people. There are over 816 employees at this board, bloating the sum of all salaries to nearly $107 million every single year, leaving things like technology upgrades, extracurricular programs, and essential classroom resources to be funded through these so-called mandatory student activity fees. The ministry would do well to seriously question PVN CCDSB's financial priorities and whether families are being forced to subsidize a top-heavy administration, as salaries eat up over half of the board's $200 million budget and top earners pocket massive raises. The boards claim that these $50 fees, potentially generating $244,000 annually from 4,875 students, are necessary, seems shady when executive salaries have ballooned 66.2% in a year. Meanwhile, students face exclusion from sports, tech access, or even prom if their families can't pay. That, in and of itself, deserves investigation. But Puccini's staffers say their hands are tied. A flimsy excuse, if you ask me. So why are families footing the bill for what should be publicly funded? Until these questions are addressed, the board's financial rogue streak and its impact on Ontario's kids will only deepen not only public distrust, but outrage. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. These are the same schools and classrooms promoting radical gender ideology targeting our kids. From inappropriate content in school libraries to keeping identity struggles secret from parents, we've been exposing this perversity at stopclassroomgrooming.ca and showcasing what's really going on behind closed doors in public education. To support this work and stay informed, please sign our petition at stopclassroomgrooming.ca.